Okay, we have the green bars, we have the live counters ticking up, so it should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime Network. Unfortunately, again, has fallen ill, so we are unable to do D&D today, so we're just going to have a chat and stream while I play some Hades.
We do be yapping. Oh no! I forgot I didn't open with something controversial and/or salacious.
Please don't.
I'm so sorry. I've disappointed my fans. I've disappointed. What was that famous? Wasn't it a wrestler who gave that speech? Let down the fans. I let the. You know what I'm talking about?
Maybe. It might have been a John Cena thing when people were cheering that he was injured.
No, the thing where they talked about how they'd after some sort of scandal, they did their fake apology video.
Honestly, don't remember. There's been a lot of fucking well, people in general doing shit apology videos, but there have been a fair amount of wrestlers doing them.
No thanks.
Yeah.
As it turns out, concussions aren't good for people.
No, they're really not.
Nor is generally just putting your body through, you know, a ton of punishment.
CT is a hell of a drug.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, on that subject,
Interesting.
shall I go back to Fuzzy's list of topics to yap about?
Alright.
Sure.
Right. Do you guys have a tone or genre that you'd like to start with?
Well, before we get into that, let's seek in with something a bit lighter. Let's talk about One Piece.
I mean, I'm always down for that, but
Like the
I
most recent
actually haven't read today's chapter.
You want to do
There a
that right
chapter
now?
today? Yes, I will actually remind me. I always forget.
Well, I'm happy to remind.
11:18, right?
Yep.
Yep.
On the
Just
subject
dropped
of
it.
that, after some prick on, what was it, Fandom Wire, wrote an article about it 2 days ago. I was very annoyed about that.
Well, yeah, obviously. But the hell is a fandom wire?
You're better off not knowing.
You know the
It does sound like one of those things, yes.
you know the fucking, like, all the wikis for various, like,
Yes.
series?
Fandom is just awful.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
aware
basically
of
like
that.
the news site for that.
Not quite.
But before we talk about One Piece, can I just make a comment about MHA?
Depends on...
As much as
Yeah, it depends about what the comment is, but go ahead, I guess.
it's not a spoiler, so you're safe. No. Or not an explicit spoiler, it's just a story structure thing.
I mean, I don't really
I
care
am
about
very-
spoilers at this stage. I've already been well spoiled on it.
Numbskull.
I've given
I'm
up.
very happy, despite how displeased I've been with the final saga. I'm very happy that Horikoshi has decided and has been permitted to do a proper series of epilogue chapters, rather than just ending on the final battle and then a single chapter of a few pages of flash forward to the distant future.
Yeah.
He's
I
actually
do. I also
doing an
appreciate
arc.
that. Yeah.
He's doing an arc to allow the aftermath to settle, and I think that's very unusual for shonen, and it's a good sign, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But of course.
Gods grant me strength.
Finish the chapter?
No, but I'm just reminded that the last chapter ended on blue balling.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Oda just is like,
Oda is a master of cliffhangers. You know this.
it's like
Hey, lads.
gets you so close and then just Chainsaw Mans you. You know what I'm saying? I don't even read Chainsaw Man, but Jack, do you Chainsaw Man?
I do not.
Does Mill Chainsaw Man?
No. Honestly, from what I've been hearing recently, I'm probably not even gonna keep watching the anime.
From what I've gathered from the memes, the main character got a handy and then was castrated by the same hand?
I think it was a case of the person wanting to castrate him, but then changing her mind.
Huh.
I could be wrong though.
But like,
I knew about
was into it
I knew
either
about
way.
the hand job, and that was it. And I was just like, okay, this series has just gotten weirder and weirder. I don't think I'm into it.
Look, at
Understandable.
least he's not banging the little sister reincarnation. Right?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
for
no,
now.
he's not.
Ah, yes, he's not yet. But if Usagi Drop has taught us one thing, it's that you can never be totally secure in a series like that until it ends.
I mean, from what
Yeah.
I've seen, fucking Fujimoto just seems like a really weird fucking dude.
Look, I read the entirety of Fire Punch. I can attest to that wholeheartedly.
Nothing left.
All right, all right.
Trying to read and yap at the same time, and it's not. You guys yap while I read.
Sure.
That's something else.
Charon said it.
Yeah, Fujimoto just seems like he's a really eccentric fellow. And you know what?
Another.
I suppose it's good for him, but like,
As
Oh,
said,
damn.
it's just not for me. You know, it's...
yeah, no, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not gonna force you at gunpoint to read Chainsaw Man, because I'm not that kind of guy.
I mean, to be
There
honest...
are absolutely Chainsaw Man fans who would do that, but those people are unhinged as fuck.
Oh, you mean, yeah, if anyone who's trying to make you fucking read something you don't... or read or watch something you don't want to read or watch is, you know, not somebody I care to really, you know, interact with.
You take a shot at me? With
No.
the Crash of the Counts family thing?
I mean, you're not making me read it, because I still haven't fucking read it. You know, you're not, every time we talk, you're not, you know, fucking going on, oh, have you read it yet? Have you read it yet? Have you read it yet? You know, you're not doing that, so, no, I'm not referring to you in that.
More coming.
Yes, but have you considered it?
Considered what, sorry?
Anxiety.
It's a hell of a drug.
I mean, that's the thing, you know, the type of people that are willing to do that are generally the types that have a dangerous amount of self-confidence in themselves.
Yep.
Little nephew, why I could have sworn.
Cheers, Uncle.
Oh, I do so love Title Dash.
Dash builds go hard in Hades.
At this point, it's kind of a either getting Title Dash or Divine Dash is sort of a prerequisite for me doing well now.
Don't trick with the Boon build, or with the Doom build, or the
No, I do love Doom builds, and I do love. Honestly, the three that I most prefer are Poseidon, Ares, and Athena.
The Ares Athena duo boon goes kind of hard.
Charon's shocked.
The boons in general are just really fun.
That's a relief.
But I know if I get, 2 out of those 3, I can generally go okay. Also depends on what I'm wielding. I do not like the sword, and I do not like the gun. I don't like the shield either, but I've at least completed the fucking, completed a run with that.
Alecto, I didn't ask you to repeatedly attempt to kill me.
Well, I think each of them has limitations. I do feel like the spear is the most versatile one.
Just the shield that lets you, that just has it just spin in place. Is that an upgrade or is that a shield something?
I mean, it's
No, the charged attack that shoots a shield that just is spinning on its own while you can do other stuff.
Oh, I'm not sure. Like I said,
Is that a hammer upgrade or?
I barely use the shield, so I honestly don't know.
Spear is definitely one of the most.
I still love the bow. I still love the bow.
I also have a fondness for the Poseidon sword cast build.
Honestly, I do love the versatility, or the variety of builds you can make. Very forgiving. Or, forgiving is not the right word. It's quite varied. Also,
Alright, I
goddamn,
have returned from reading One Piece. Also, yeah, so Bonnie's fruit is just busted. Also, it's got a very severe drawback that I can understand why it's not necessarily the most
Oh my
desirable
god!
for the majority of people.
Okay, I'm not hearing you very well, Fuzzy. It might be me, though.
Mike, is it a mic problem? Do I need to, like... You guys need to
No,
turn
I think
me
I'm
up
just
in
glitching.
Discord?
No, I think it's a thing on my end.
Your internet does occasionally cause problems.
To be fair,
So-
I don't think anyone here has not had
Let's see here.
internet problems.
All set.
Oh, of course.
At one point in time, certainly. To be fair, my current internet has been remarkably consistent.
Yes, that is a good thing, for sure.
Definitely had them in
So
the past.
you're running
though.
out with the shield this time, right?
No, sword.
Warmer.
Ah, sword.
Sword and the gun are the only two that I've not completed a run with.
Mm.
Gun, I'm not even gonna bother. I can't use that well, and I don't like it.
Are you aware that the gun is automatic?
Yes, I still don't like it.
It's very weird that you like the bow but not the gun. I have very similar playstyles.
I don't like reloading, and I don't like the having to aim nature of the whatchamacallit, special.
I heard a certain someone's back at home with you down there now, cuz. I call it
Reloading is automatic though.
Yeah, but it still takes time.
Time after time.
Yes, what do you want to talk about One Piece wise, Jack?
Just the events of the... I know today's chapter... there's still a lot to talk about. Like, I do feel like, as much as it does make Bonnie overpowered, I do feel like it is a reasonable culmination of her and her father's arc so far.
I was gonna say, it's not actually that overpowered, because the problem with it is that it was brought up. It literally is strongest when you're young, and it gets weaker the older you get.
Yes.
Like, Distorted Future is the strongest
In the name of Hades.
ability of it, and that one, like, I guess that if you're... One thing she could do is that, one thing you can do if you're old is you can just, like, use it to return to your physical prime. The problem is that that doesn't let you... That's not really an improvement. That's just returning to what you've already got.
Well, imagine her using it on, like, Rayleigh or Garp or someone like that.
So that would flop. Like,
It wouldn't last for very long, but it'd still be, like, fucking
you know
insane.
what just occurred to me?
Next up.
I think this usage of her Devil Fruit has been brought up before by other people, but, like, I still think it's really neat to consider.
You know what I wanted to bring out?
Just what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Marineford would have gone down very differently if she'd been there.
Yeah,
If who was there?
if Bonnie was there. Imagine
Oh, yeah.
Whitebeard back in his prime.
Oh, fuck. Everybody all the Marines would be fucked.
Like, there's probably a very good reason he was intercepted.
Well, she also didn't go direct to Marineford. She just witnessed it. Yeah, very good reason that Oda held off on using her. Like, even back then, it was like, we knew her fruit could revert, her fruit power could revert a person's age. So it's like, holy shit. The applications of this are insane.
Yeah, full power Whitebeard would have tilted everything out long.
I mean, I think at that point, Sengoku would just basically be forced to go, okay, you can have Fire Fist. I don't think we want to do this.
Goddess Athena.
Yeah.
Well, there's another possibility. It could have escalated.
It's likely it would have lasted long enough for Shanks to get there
May I help you?
and actually intervene in an active combat zone.
Also, if Rayleigh had shown up, Rayleigh probably would have been willing to take a more active role in,
Maybe.
so, yeah, basically the idea is Marineford would have gone down very differently with Bonnie in it. Which, it's interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could Bonnie also, you know, could have aged Luffy up to a certain point? Or is that not...
It wouldn't have helped. She didn't have enough information to work with regarding
Yeah.
Luffy. As we saw this chapter, she needs to have something to aim for. It's not just... You
She
can't
needs
just
to know
magically...
what she's trying to do.
Yeah. She has to have a certain amount of understanding of it as well. And remember, she had a Nikai's future before. All it did was make her a bit bulky and mildly...
Basically, Gear Third.
Yeah. 'Cause that was all she had a conception of, but when she saw proper, full Sun God, that's when she was able to use it. I will say one thing. We all know that I am a shameless Oda apologist,
Razor sharp.
who even when he does wrong, try to convince myself that he has done no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish didn't keep putting her in the skimpy.
Putting her in the what now?
in the skimpy clothes.
A sea creature.
To be fair,
what's
it's
Yes, physically, but like that does not fly
no,
in
I
a
get
court
it.
of law. Just like
He has toned down the emphasis on that
I
recently.
know,
though.
but was the cleavage really necessary in the last page? There was just like there was definitely it drew the eye because it was in that portion of the screen as well.
Suppose so.
No, thoughts?
I don't
I didn't really
remember
pay
that
much
page.
attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really remember
It
that
was the
page.
big,
You are looking
big
positively fabulous, I have
wide
to
spread
say.
on the very end of the chapter.
I
I'll be
still
real,
don't really
the
remember
cleavage
it.
was not what I noticed there.
It's in my part. It's more because I fucking read like another bunch of series after that.
Y'all would see what's y'all's methodology? Because I read One Piece last. Like,
I read
saved
One
the
Piece
best
first.
Same.
Well, I read Jujutsu Kaisen first when it's, you know, not on break, and then I will read things in chapter order, basically, of, you know, okay, One Piece, then Lucius Samurai, then Blue Box, that sort of thing.
I go in the opposite.
Can we just talk about how much the soundtrack absolutely fucking slaps?
Look, Supergiant is soundtrack has always been one of their strongest elements. Their soundtracks never don't slap. Like I'm saying this as someone who's actually has experience with Supergiant since the days of Bastion. Like Supergiant soundtrack always slaps. Without it. Whether it's Bastion or Transistor or Hades or Pyre, they're always.
No, they seem like a good studio.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, Hades 2 in early access apparently has as much content as the entirety of Hades' full release,
Yeah.
Wild.
which is just actually illegal. Supergiant is one of those why you gotta make the rest of us look bad. It's like it's very, and this is the greatest compliment I can give. It's very akin to FromSoft in that way.
Yeah. Basically.
Also, did Miyazaki really say that he should probably tone down the poison swamps because he overdid it in Elden Ring? Did he really say that, or was that just?
Closer.
Maybe.
Because, like, when Hidetaka poison swamps Miyazaki thinks he's overdone the poison swamps, you know there's a lot of poison swamps.
Yes. I'm gonna be real, I did not get very far in Elden Ring. It is a lot as a game, and yeah.
I can understand why.
I didn't bother getting it. I know what I like from my games, and it's not, you know, FromSoft Souls games, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do kind of regret getting it just because, like, it has a much higher difficulty curve than I'm used to.
Well, there is a potential solution for that, actually.
Oh-ho.
which I don't know if Mill would be amenable to, but maybe Gen or someone else. We can find some. Oh, Aerith has done this. The Elden Ring Seamless Co-op mod.
I have it on console, not on PC. And we all know how mods work on consoles. AKA, they don't.
I was gonna say. So, I do have other things to talk about. Would you like me to bring up? I'll start light. And then we can get into the
The
questions.
nitty and the gritty.
The questions that make you wonder how, like, question your life. So yes, to start with,
Let's see what I can do with this sword.
let's talk about the reincarnator age to mental age disparity.
Let's go, Stygius.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
No, but I am approaching it from a somewhat different angle. And I think
Oh ho ho.
30 plus 20 is not equal to.
Elaborate, please.
So the basic idea is that aging, right? How does it work?
Time moves forward and you get older.
The thing is, that's not actually how aging works. In the mental sense. Physically, yes. But when talking about reincarnators, one must obviously talk about the mental aspect. And what happens in the mental domain is a bit different. Yes, time moves forward, but what determines mental age is not so much the passage of time as it is experience.
This one's for you. Looks like you are stuck.
You know where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
So, while it's true that someone who dies at age 20 and then they reincarnate from, like, birth and are, say, age 10, their mental age is not actually 30. Experientially, their mental age is 20 and 10 to 10 twice. Because what you experience as a 20-year-old to a 30-year-old is very different from what you experience as a 0-year-old to a 10-year-old. The problem...
In different settings.
Yeah. But the problem is that you have to kind of live with it all the same.
In some
So-
cases, I've seen it's a case of just like straight up inheriting memories from previous life, but not
No, that's a
actually
transmigrator. That's yes, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But in the case that is typified by the
Keep my soul for now.
disgusting thing itself, Mushoku Tensei.
I thought you were gonna go there.
Yeah, so we know that that case is gross, but if we think more about how and why it matter, it is a case that,
Come die again.
yes, he's mentally older, but you do not experience, like, if we exclude the god-awful behavior, you do not experience the same things. And as a result, you can't really say that you are mentally, and that's why 30 plus 20 does not equal 50. Because if a 30-year-old dies and then reincarnates with all their memories and then lives to the age of 20, they haven't experienced the things that a 30-year-old to a 50-year-old does. So you can't really say that their mental age is 50. To a certain extent, they also stagnate.
Yes, because they don't experience the what would normally be the aging process for the appropriate for their mental age.
Exactly. So it is significantly more complicated, and it's not something as easy to quantify as you might actually expect. So yeah, that's how. But any thoughts on that? Like, I know I'm the resident yapper, but y'all have to give me a little bit more.
No, I think
yeah,
I have been giving you a back and forth, but like, I do think it's an interesting thing to think about.
I was letting you get your point across without interrupting.
I've just been trying to yes and you to kind of help you on that front, but yes.
Yes, I have ceased my piece. Please offer rebuttal.
I don't really have a firm rebuttal, but I do think it is an interesting thing to contemplate. Because it is oh so rare for, hey, Patroclus!
So, how's Achilles doing lately, stranger?
But yeah, it's an interesting thing to contemplate, because yeah, the experiences aren't a one-to-one, especially when you are in a very different world from beforehand.
I see.
And I do think, like, there is also a thing to be considered for, like, whether or not you're, there's also a different thing of being reincarnated to the same world, you know? Like, reliving your old life and whatnot, that kind of thing.
Regression is a different entirely, yeah. So, it's the three terms, right? Reincarnation, regression. It's the 3 R's. Reincarnation, regression, and
Boosted a boon.
transmigration.
What are your thoughts on gender bending reincarnation?
I don't like it because it's not.
What are you even talking
There's
about?
it's
I barely get a word
not
in.
great no matter how you approach it. Because first of all, just the ethics of the whole forcing, like, especially if you are or know someone who's experienced like body dysmorphia and gender dysmorphia, you should know.
Dysphoria, you mean?
That's what I said, dysphoria.
Okay.
I said dysphoria,
I hit
it may have-
dysmorphia, to be fair, so.
Yeah, you said dysmorphia.
I thought I said dysphoria. It may just be the time.
Regardless,
They're similar sounding
I think-
words.
I do think it's a case-by-case basis, because it's not necessarily going to be the individuals are feeling dysphoria because they are reincarnated in a different body
no.
from
The
the
reason-
original one.
The reason I bring up the idea of it being somewhat disrespectful is that oftentimes the authors are a bit too flippant. Right? Like, dysphoria is not a laughing matter. Right?
Yeah.
It's a very serious thing. And, like, it's literally a matter of life and death in many cases. So, it's always a little... It just rubs me the wrong way when it's just played for gags. Which is often, you have to admit, often gender-bending reincarnation is played for gags or played for, like, perversion.
Yeah.
Which just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
That ought to shut it up. Hope you enjoyed the show, my good chap.
But, yeah, it's one of those things that, if it's done well, it can be good. Like, there's cases where...
I mean that's the case with pretty much everything, isn't it?
It's the case with everything.
It's
But,
on the execution and whatnot.
but, yeah, just in my experience, it's very often just treated so flippant. It just, I don't, just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's one of those things that, like, it can be executed well, but it often isn't. And it's much more often executed badly. Because you know how it is.
I would say the vast majority of cases.
90% probably, you'd think.
more than that, honestly. Like, I can't actually... I read a lot. I cannot think of a single example where I've seen it being executed, like, really well. I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit too sensitive about this particular topic. For reasons that are completely of the cisgender varietal.
I mean, to be fair, I can't think of any examples, but that's because it's not something that I, go out of my way to try and read or watch.
Yeah, I've only really seen like a couple examples incidentally, and one of them handled it better than the other.
I remember what was it called? Total Fantasy Knockout number. Enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch that one. So yeah. The one I watched was Reborn to Master the Blade, which had a hit or miss, which was about pretty hit or miss with it, but when it did do it well, it did it fairly well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just whenever you always have to be careful, right? It's like there was a thing a long time ago now, but I still remember it very clearly about handling, like, sensitivity and handling of magical gender bending for trans people, like magical transitioning, where some people would like enjoy it because it just is a fantasy that they would love to actually bring into reality, and then there's other people who just are made uncomfortable by it because of obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Or is it because it's too unrealistic and whatnot? Or because it doesn't really reflect real lived experiences? Any number of reasons, really.
Yeah.
I can imagine there's an element of, it's too easy.
Yes, and it can be very frustrating. It can maybe poke a few scars. It can poke a few wounds. But...
Yeah, for some others, that's the fantasy, that it could be that easy. That it could be, that, no fuss, no, real difficulties with it. Because that's what they wish they had. And I kind of get it from both of those aspects.
I bet it's in here.
Okay. I have a slightly heavier topic we can transition to.
Oh boy.
Which I have titled, The Ethics of Collateral Damage When Your Enemies Harm Innocents in Retaliation.
I feel like there's going to be some political discussions here.
I'm happy with keeping it strictly the fictional. To that effect, what I mean by that is, let me posit a scenario.
Found it fast this time.
Great and powerful wizard. Hides out with some orphan kids.
Oh, what's in this stuff?
From enemies. Then goes to attack enemy base. In retaliation, enemies murder the orphans.
Always a pleasure, Charon.
What level of responsibility
Vigilant Cerberus.
does the quote-unquote good guy have?
I owe you one
Because
more.
obviously, the bad guy at no point had to murder the orphans, so obviously they're a dick.
Yeah.
The good guy
I mean,
in this
the
scenario
question is
isn't blameless.
how reasonable it would be to expect that level of retaliation, for one thing, and for two, if they took countermeasures, said wizard took countermeasures to, you know.
I'm saying in the event that the wizard did not take.
Because I still don't think the responsibility would fall wholly on said wizard. It would definitely fall partially on them being negligent, but
Got here as quickly as I could.
yeah.
No matter how often you defeat me, I shall face you here.
I mean, there's an example you can go to with Dresden.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how responsible was he for... I mean, let's go to the extreme example for his boarding house burning down and his neighbors being put in danger.
To a certain, yeah, that's actually a very good example we can use, because here's the thing: he shouldn't always have been aware that his home was prime target, right? Like, even though he protected his home, the fact that he had neighbors, like the fact that he lived in a place where other people could be harmed as a direct result of it, was somewhat irresponsible and negligent on his part. I know he didn't end it that way, obviously, but it could be interpreted that way. Because, like, he always knew that his enemies could come for him at any time.
Yeah.
It's why he was so to agree to, like, not be a part of his daughter's life for, like,
Yeah.
even after he learned about her.
Mm-hmm.
Really, though, why do you ask?
Because other than the fact that he was just not ready to have a child, even though I still think it was a major dick move for Susan to not tell him at all. He was not the most sympathetic of characters, regardless of what point in the series you think.
Yeah.
But definitely the case that if he knew that that was going to be an issue, should have realized that it was going to be an issue for the neighbors as well. Like, obviously his enemies attacking him is the enemies being dicks, but at the same time, if you know your enemies are going to attack you and don't take countermeasures to possibly protect your neighbors and your neighbors die, that's kind of on you.
I mean,
Right?
I suppose Harry's argument would be that, you know, the protections on his apartment were meant to protect the boarding house as well, and that he didn't necessarily expect, you know, one of his enemies to take such an overt action.
Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah, it's established quite often that he's not exactly very well versed in the art of hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
There's also
He's
just
gotten
the
a lot
fact
better
of the
at
matter
it,
that
sure,
it's like,
but, you know,
Yes, but it took dying
yeah.
multiple times.
there's also just the matter of like, hey, scorched earth tactics from your enemies aren't something that you are made to expect in a situation where like people are trying to keep things on the down low because of the supernatural aspect of it, and they want to keep things subtle. And burning down your enemy's house in the middle of a major urban center is not subtle.
I mean, to be brutally honest, it didn't even take him dying. What it took was Chicago, you know, being half destroyed by Ethnoi.
Oh, is that how it's pronounced?
I don't fucking know.
Ask Spike from Buffy the Vampire.
Ethniu? I'm not really sure.
I think it was Ethniu.
Probably is. I'm gonna keep saying Ethnui because it's easier for me to pronounce.
Yes.
I mean, you're wrong, but I'll allow it.
In the name of Hades.
Does it stop you from pronouncing it Marconi, Fuzzy?
I mean, that's fair. That's totally fair.
What lurks
I
in the
will
waters of the
continue to
surface.
pronounce it that way. No, it is, but like, we do acknowledge that he has culpability. Regardless of the fact that it wasn't necessarily an immediately
Found you.
obvious thing, he still has a level of culpability.
Once more, tenacious Zagreus achieves his lofty goal.
I do think it's a much lower degree of culpability compared to, say, like,
Twist of fate, perhaps. He goes a little distance, then he dies.
the people who are actually directly responsible.
No, obviously, no. We established that. We hold these facts to be self-evident. That like,
All right, let's
obviously
let's give another example with a wizard named Harry.
I'm counting that one as a victory.
Oh
Oh, boy.
God.
Dumbledore put the Philosopher's Stone in Hogwarts,
Excuse me, sorry, I just have to
knowing that
That's not-
Voldemort was after it.
No. We are talking about otherwise decent human beings here.
Thank you for waiting.
We're not talking about the likes of that
Achilles,
of Sir Michael Gambon's famous
Good to know
character.
whom to turn to should anything run afoul
Which-
around here.
Is he alive?
Yeah,
He was a
Michael
talented
Gambon's still
student.
alive.
If only you could have seen his
He's like
progress.
ancient though, is he not?
I am
Yeah, he's
proud.
probably like
You know,
80s or
you were
90s at this
already
point.
quite
I
the
think
name
only
on the
80s.
surface when I lived upon Olympus.
Oh, I doubt that.
I swear he was older than that.
I mean, I'll check.
But oh, you're playing the game. We have.
We're at a
Jack-
stop point. I can stop.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah. So you think Michael Gambon regrets playing Dumbledore, or is he not
I don't think he really cares.
into the discourse?
Oh wait, no, he did die. Shit. He died in last September. Shit. I forgot.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And he
That's
was
awkward.
he was 82.
Well, he did live a long life, at least.
Yeah.
Awkward. all
Honestly,
lap
if anyone
around, yeah.
is older than the average life expectancy of their of like the world, I do consider that to be a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
Helps when you're probably
Late
wealthy
70s
enough
or
that
older.
it helps when you are wealthy enough that it's just very,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a foregone conclusion that,
Yeah.
barring a sudden illness or accident, yeah. Or in some rare cases, a murder.
Bet you're happy
Because
to see
celebrities
that.
are not, in fact, immune from murder,
Only wish I
as
could tell you about it before.
has been repeatedly established over the past century.
Contentedly
The
ignores the
problem is that none of the decent, like,
You don't like it when I
it's
mention
never
it,
the
huh?
really awful ones that get murdered.
No. I mean, the
No.
worst one I can think, like, the least likable one I can think of who was murdered was John Lennon. And even then, like, he was a complicated man. Not a great man, but he was a complicated man.
six eyes of the
He was kind of a dick, but at the same time, it's not like he was,
Yeah.
evil.
He was not a perfect person, but he was not, like, a monster.
Zagreus.
Which the same cannot be said for a lot of celebrities.
Like Bill Cosby, everyone's
Often spent too
favorite.
much thought. I just knew I needed to find her. And then as soon as I did,
Yeah,
I knew I needed to change my life.
I had to use him as an example, because he's the
No,
easiest
of
example
course.
to think of.
I appreciate your candor.
Acceptable targets.
I
and all
mean,
that.
let's
But,
be honest, the issue is that right-wing nuts are far more likely to murder somebody than left-wing nuts.
But know that I'm grateful for the
Correct.
It
Which
is-
is why it always frustrates me when I hear people say, oh, both sides are equally dangerous. No, they're fucking not. Don't be
No,
disingenuous.
anyone who engages in both sidism
He
is
told me your
right.
songs. Some of them came.
They're being a disingenuous dick.
I owe my everything to my Eurydice. She often
But weren't you the famous one?
But
It is but one of life's injustices, I fear.
the fact of the matter
Always
is,
saying her praise.
I don't exactly know the ways of mortals, mate.
there is a level of. But going back to the discussion, Dumbledore
Yes, you haven't
absolutely
got any
was
justified
culpable in
case
any
files
and all
for
harm
circumstances
that
under which
people went through for that. Like, that was entirely his fault.
Mans was in charge of the whole institute. He could have done whatever he wanted.
I'll look into it as soon as possible.
That's precisely the problem! He did do
Yeah.
whatever he wanted, and that's what the problem was.
Contract I'm
Yup.
looking for should be back there.
Nestled among the towering administrative parchment work.
Okay.
But-
it should be dispatched over to the house contractor now.
Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that,
Some mortals don't believe in ghosts.
the
but
more
I
benign
do.
examples, like in the Dresden example.
I do feel like there is a point at which, like, there's only so much you can do as a preventative measure before it's out of your control, what they do. And, like, you have to do something about them. You can't just do nothing out of fear for the safety of yourself and those around you.
True, but like I suppose it's just a matter of determining the degree. Like, what is the
Like, if it's
level?
like, this is a situation of, like, they are trying to overthrow a corrupt, tyrannical government or something like that. Like, at that point, it's kind of difficult to say, like, these people are going to suffer under the regime anyways.
Here's the catch of this.
Like, there is no good scenario for them. At least they're, like, trying to ensure a better future, and the collateral damage is an unfortunate side effect of, you know, it being a tyrannical regime.
Well, you say that, but there are cases where there's a lot of people who, even under a tyrannical regime, they kind of just live their lives.
I think I'll take it.
Like, it's not pleasant, but they wouldn't undergo, like,
Always use
excessive
more keys.
harm that they might
Just what I was looking for.
over the course of the attempted rebellion, right? So it's just like,
Here's the keys.
where do you draw the line? Like, is there a line that can even be drawn?
That is an excellent question, which I do not have the answer.
Yeah, but that's why
In the name
we
of
discuss.
Hades, I hereby release Orpheus from the terms of his pact.
Where did
Woohoo!
you unearth that blasted contract?
Eat shit, Dad. Sorry.
Thanatos, featured servant of the house.
Good for Than. Actually.
Oh, well, have you gotten to the point where you can, like, build a romance route thing, Mel?
So I've got Thanatos to the lock, but I'm not quite sure how to break it yet.
It's just a matter of, like, continuing to play runs, and then an event will happen that really does it.
But yes, I'm going for Than. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not the biggest fan of Meg. I don't know.
I like her.
I think I do. I think the thruple route is fine. In which
God damn,
Zag
you
is the
upgraded
meat in the
yourself quite a
sandwich.
bit.
I mean, that was my
Zag is the meat.
That was my 50th run. I should have upgraded myself quite a bit by now.
You're maxed out on almost everything.
Yeah.
The only thing you aren't is the bottom thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we should do at some point? This is actually something I've been thinking about. Of if we can figure out a way to do multiple perspectives, which I think there is a way to do it. Rather, I think the way to do it would be to, what you stream. You create a scene where what you stream is the shared Discord window. But the thing I was gonna say is that it would be kind of fun to do something like a Hades race or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you always have to figure out a way to make it competitive, mildly.
Care to accompany me?
That's just how people's is.
Mm-hmm.
And all that. But, that aside, On the continuing the subject of intent being a major thing, let us discuss
Time to
the
break out again.
concept of
This is where you belong. You feel out of place? Where would you even
like
go?
the
What would you have me do? Your place is here.
He's right.
Didn't want to interrupt Big Daddy Hades.
I'm not watching on that. Oh, I forgot to do the thing that I said we should do. So is the dance of ignorance, awareness, and intent.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The dance of ignorance, awareness, and intent. What I mean by this is
Right.
you always have to be very sensitive to harm caused, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
All right then.
there is harm caused through ignorance. There's harm caused without. This is all regarding unintentional.
Chaos. It seems I've developed something of a talent around.
There's harm caused out of ignorance. There's harm caused with the awareness that harm might occur, but it's not the intent. And then there's harm caused, but the intent was not to cause harm. Let's run through these scenarios and try and figure out which is better and.
Right, can you repeat that?
No, I'm trying to figure out a way to properly. So, let's take the ignorance example. You hurt someone's feelings by poking a wound, like just saying something that is part of their trauma.
Yeah.
But it's not your intent to cause distress.
Right.
Then you have the case where you say something and you're aware that the feelings might be hurt, but it's not your intention. Like you're aware that a certain level of you're aware of the trauma, but you're just not. You just don't realize that the feelings could be hurt because of what you're saying.
Time for a change.
It's difficult to do this without specific examples, and of course the intent is you intend to soothe someone, but you end up hurting their feelings. You get where I'm coming from?
Right.
Yes.
So, which of these scenarios do you think?
Which of these scenarios, sorry, you dropped out,
You think is the worst?
is the worst?
That's what you get.
Found you down there, nephew.
Ignorance, lack of awareness, or misplaced intention?
So what's the difference between ignorance and lack of awareness?
No, ignorance is you don't even know that a trauma occurred. And the lack of awareness is saying something without realizing that it will trigger the trauma. In one case, you don't know about the trauma at all. In the other case, you know the trauma is there, but you don't have the awareness to realize that what you're going to say will be a trigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's an element of what's the reason for, well, either one, really.
How so? What do you mean by that?
I mean, is the ignorance a matter of you've not tried to get to know the person and yet are still trying to, butt in on their business. If they've chosen not to tell you, then at that point, yeah, there's not really much you can do. But you know, if it's just somebody you know very casually, and then get into something deep with them, I would say that is a point where you go, okay, well, you've gotten yourself into that sort of thing.
They'll fear me with this spear.
Okay, I can understand that point of view, yeah, as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's your rush there, boy?
But it's like it's still not as clear cut as that in a lot of cases, which is where the ambiguity comes from. Right? Is in a lot of cases, even though you don't intend for it to be like, it's not that you're not close to the person, it just doesn't occur to you that, oh, I've got this trauma that I should share. Right? Sometimes it's not a matter of like willfully not sharing, maybe you just repress it to the point that it doesn't really come up ever. Right? So that's a much more ambiguous case for the ignorance part. You know what I'm saying?
That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Good enough to eat. Better blessing.
So, like, it's never quite as clear cut as it seems. It could. Yes, that's the ignorance case. But like, that's not the question I was gonna ask. Is yes, what do you believe is the worst?
I mean, I'd argue that, again, it obviously depends on intentions. If the intentions are good,
let's say the intention is not to harm in any of it.
Then I would say what matters is more your reaction afterwards. Of once you realize you've caused harm, what do you then do? Do you apologize, or do you
Double down?
Well, yeah, go, well, I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? That sort of thing.
It's a case, yeah, the reaction to it. Like, you could double down, or you could say, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't mean to do that. I will do my best not to do that again. How can I make this up to you? That kind of thing. Which is, in most cases, that's probably a sincere response.
Yeah.
I would hope.
But yeah, I guess it's also a matter of asking, like, to what degree does one's responsibility extend?
Yes.
Right? Like,
I mean, it is very much a case of you can only do, what you think is best. If you do end up hurting somebody along the way, apologize, try and make up for it. I mean, there can be a certain amount of, crossover with, accidentally getting somebody's pronouns wrong. You also don't want to, overbear it, because the more you bring up that you've made, the mistake or the faux pas, the more you're poking at that wound.
Yeah. Repeatedly saying, sorry I fucked up, sorry I fucked up, sorry I fucked up, is going to just, like, tell them, like, you're more concerned with apologizing than actually correcting the behavior.
okay, yeah, that is an angle I hadn't considered necessarily, yeah. But
I mean, I do think there's a certain amount of responsibility if you do actually know about the trauma in particular, to actually, think about what you're saying before you actually say it as well. You know, it's if you don't know it all, then there is a certain amount of, you know, okay, well, how was I supposed to know? But I'll still, you know, you still obviously apologize.
Thank you, mate.
But if you do know, then at that point you do have to sort of go, all right, then I probably should have thought about this, you know.
The haste of Hermes. Never enough.
Before I actually said anything.
Hi.
Oh, good. Murder.
Is it murder?
It's annoying. Not
Same
the worst.
difference,
Not the
really.
worst of the sisters, to be fair, but still, you know, not fun.
I assume the worst is the one you've already fought
Electo, yeah.
earlier in the stream.
Electo sucks. Megan's just sort of there. She can be annoying depending on how things go, but
There's some potential commentary there.
Are you gonna do the whole shut up Meg thing?
I'd rather not.
I know, but
It's honestly irritating that that's, you know, of all of Seth MacFarlane's work, that's the one that's gotten the most prominence.
Yeah, Family Guy just sucks.
Because American Dad can actually be decent at times. I've actually watched, you know, a fair few clips of his fucking live-action sci-fi show, The Orville, and that seems actually pretty decent.
yeah, the Orville is apparently very good for if you're a fan of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Keepsakes hold power. Go with that one.
But
Tartarus.
the other thing I was gonna say is that I have a somewhat lighter topic to transition into,
Now we're getting somewhere.
which is that one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine is improper versus battle etiquette.
Improper what?
Improper versus battle etiquette, in the sense of it's not like matching up characters that have no business being matched up. And I have a perfectly prominent example of this.
Thank the gods.
Any time I see someone bring up something along the lines of Saitama versus Goku, I get upset.
Yeah, because
what
of dumb
I'm-
power scaling bullshit.
And also, because there's a much better
No. I know
versus
we're getting into more
battle
trouble at the
right
moment.
there.
May the-
And I think I might blow your minds here.
Eurydice, did you by any
Rather
chance ever meet
than-
Persephone during the whole thing when Orpheus came down?
You can also do. Someone should make a meme of this.
It's complicated.
Either the Drake
And
meme or
please
the
keep it
alternative to that, because
I
we
just
don't.
want-
Because Drake's
Didn't get
an
much of an
awful person.
impression, but I can tell you this.
Where Saitama versus Goku broke. But what's really good, Saitama versus Arali.
Sounds good. No problem.
Oh yeah, because they're both gag characters.
Because they're both gag characters, right?
I do-
That's a more even distribution.
Okay, I will say this: as much as people clown on Super, I do, especially the crossover episode.
Gag
with,
character
Dr. Slump,
episode, Arali
It is
episode was one of the
legitimately
best.
ingenious that Vegeta figures out that the best way to deal with Arale is to just use gags.
And the fact
Because
that
he realizes she's a gag character.
that episode in general just has some of the best writing, like the best meta-narrative writing in modern anime, period.
Yeah,
It's
because
very
it's very...
odd to say about Dragon Ball Super.
Look, Super has a lot of flaws. But when the writers actually knew what they were doing, they actually did a good job.
When they were cooking, they were cooking.
Exactly. Like, the whole
That's it.
concept behind, like, Ultra Instinct, for example. Absolutely excellent idea. And for the most part, executed pretty damn well.
Also, the white hair is cool.
It's not the white hair I'm saying is the well-executed stuff. And you know it.
I know, but like I find the white hair cool. I know design is divisive, but I like the white hair. Marshall,
I don't mind the white hair personally. I do think it's like the most whatever part of the design, but overall I still think it's a really good conception. Oh hell yeah, Divine Dash.
It's very solid conception.
Yeah, but I've got
gonna argue
Tidal
with that.
Dash, so it's fine.
Oh yeah.
Give me a better boon. Oh, easy does it.
I don't like Demeter's boons.
Ready when you are, Barge of Death.
Unlike the gift Grandma gives you.
No.
Rude.
Let's see how quickly I can.
And they need, if she wants me to like them, they need to be better.
You're dead.
That's very grandson. But yeah. So I think Saitama versus Raleigh would be an interesting matchup.
Yeah. It would also be funny. It would be like a Raleigh versus Gear 5 Luffy would be very funny because that's also gag characters.
Kind of a gag character, right? Yeah.
Honestly, Oda was fucking ingenious for Gear 5.
It's not so much a matter of genius as he's been waiting for that his entire life.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he had Gear 5 planned out. If not from the beginning, then from very early on. And honestly, good for him.
Look, he was born to do Luna. Oh, I'm gonna say.
Yes.
He knew it. But yeah, it's also unfortunate because anytime people bring up Luffy, a One Piece versus, anytime people bring, do you know what's very odd about Dragon Ball?
What?
It's in a very awkward place in the power scaling environment. The reason I say that is that while, yes, it's kind of like it's a pretty high power universe,
Grant me strength.
it's also, it's, when it comes to other high power universes, it's at the absolute bottom. But when it comes to low power universes, it's at the absolute top. It's in a very awkward space where it either completely destroys any opposition or completely gets destroyed. There's no in between for Dragon Ball.
I think it scales pretty well against stuff like, I think, like, Sonic the Hedgehog is in a similar space, actually, ironically enough.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to elaborate.
So, Sonic has a similar issue where it is extreme, the power scaling is very high, especially with the feats that, with characters like Sonic and Shadow and such. But you also have to deal with the fact that, like, if you match them against, say, like, comic book characters from Marvel or DC, they're going to get horrendously power scaled. I'm pretty sure there was a death battle between one of the Flashes and Sonic lost horrendously.
Yeah, obviously, Flash's. Well, so here's the problem with comics. Here's the problem with Death Battle. Here's the problem I have with Death Battle. They can choose too much for it to be like. Okay, you know what my gripe is with Death Battle? It's not that they pick and choose necessarily. It's that they pretend to be objective while picking and choosing in such a way
they're
that
100% non-objective.
they claim to be. And that pisses me off. Because one of the feats, again, Goku versus Superman is not even a question, because Superman is a comic book character who is just designed for different things than Goku is. Obviously, he's going to win. But the reasoning they used, they just used some very spurious arguments. For example, let me bring up a relatively recent, and by relatively recent I mean like 2016 example. There was so Wally West is one of the more famous Flashes.
Yep.
He was, most notably, he was the DCAU Flash.
Yep.
Which
Just League Unlimited also absolutely slaps.
A very interesting decision to go with him as opposed to Barry Allen, because Barry Allen is a legitimately fascinating character, and they'd have to deal with Reverse Flash being the world's most dedicated hater. It's very funny, like in
the level of
number of
pettiness that the Reverse Flash is capable of is so fucking funny. Like,
yeah, after
the whole "it was me, Barry" meme is legitimately like there for a good reason.
Yeah, it's like there was. Did you know there was legitimately, and this is not a joke, there was a storyline where Reverse Flash was going to go back in time and be Barry's biological father.
Oh my god.
Legit was like, but what if I become your biological father and then abuse you as a child? That was legitimately something he was going to do. And he got killed by Dr. Manhattan, which is its own can of worms. But, yes, sadly he doesn't stay. Because honestly, if there was any character who deserved to stay dead, it would be Reverse Flash. Anyway, so, okay. Wally West was fighting a dude. I don't remember why. But, the thing that they... So, one of the more, consistent ways that they try to, limit a Flash's power level is by saying that, yes, they can go faster than the speed of light, but there's consequences. Like, they risk being assimilated by the Speed Force. Hell, this even came up in
Justice League Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah, Justice League Unlimited. Where, yes, you can go, like, insanely fast and theoretically become the most powerful being in the universe, but you will essentially, it's a suicide move. Yes.
I do love it. It's very well executed. Also, it's one of the best moments in animation history. Just because of how well executed that whole scene is.
Now, let me tell you about a scene that's not done. It has the exact same sort of idea associated. And that is, you know, there's the drama of, oh my god, I have to go faster than the speed of light to save these people. And he does that and there's consequences, but do you know what was infuriating about that?
Which version is this? Is this the live action?
DC Rebirth. No. This is the
Rebirth.
OG comics. The Rebirth imprint, which is, I think, still the ongoing thing.
Yeah, I don't think they've done a reboot since.
They've not done a reset. Rebirth. So
which is probably for the best because Rebirth did a lot to salvage a lot of the new 52's fuck-ups.
Yes, Rebirth was great. Like, the Rebirth event in general, and the way that, like, the emotional... It was an actual... I was there as it was coming out, and it was an experience, and I did enjoy it. That's not what I'm getting into. The thing I want to get into is the fact that the big drama was, oh no, he's had to go faster than the speed of light to save the people. You know what the took me out of it, what made me like drop the Ludo, like the cognitive. What's that? The word for that? Cognitive dissonance. There's a what's that specific type of dissonance? It's not ludonarrative. The other one. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's in TV tropes. One of the most common ones.
In the name of Hades.
Anyway,
Oh,
the inability to like I don't know. I'll it'll come to me later. But the reason I bring it up is it completely took me out of it because
Here
the
in Elysium.
primary
Than anybody else I've seen.
issue and conceit
Say, isn't that the Leafy right nearby?
was that
It has been
the
rather
people he had to save know where they were. The two people who were in danger at the same time that he had to go faster than the speed of light to save. I want
Who
you
were
to
they?
guess what distance would be required for him to have to go faster than the speed of light.
I'm going to guess it's less than 1,000 miles.
It was no bigger than that. But it was east and west coast of the US.
Oh my god, so like 3,000 miles or so.
Yes.
You could get there at the speed of light in the blink of a fucking eye.
No. You know, I was so taken out of it while I was reading that chapter that I actually did the math. It's something ridiculous. Like, if you were going at the speed of light, you could go from one end of the US to the other something like 17,000 times.
Jesus Christ.
Like, which means you could go at a tiny fraction of the speed of... And they weren't even being shot! It was an arrow trap!
Oh my god!
Literally, a subsonic arrow was headed towards, like, Robin and Linda Park. Or someone in Linda Park.
You're telling me that the writer of this storyline has no concept of scale.
Zero concept of physics. Like, there's lazy like, yes, I could understand fudging the numbers and bending the rules of physics, but when your core drama is something that a literal quick Google search could tell you, like how fast do you have to be to get from one end of the US to another in like a fifth of a second?
Mm-hmm.
If you can just Google that. It's just such a level of lazy writing. And that is the biggest flaw of comic books, is that writers can just have free reign to be lazy.
I give my usual rant about one more day and all that bullshit, but I don't need
That's not
to.
that's not even what I'm talking about. That's outright malice.
Yeah, because
What I'm
Joe
talking
Quesada
about
is a prick, but yes.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is just the sheer level of abject laziness it takes to not even do a simple cursory Google search.
Mm-hmm.
It would give you all you need to know.
Let us destroy him quickly.
Oh my god, I finally didn't have to listen to fucking Theseus speak, that prick.
Theseus is like the worst character in the game. No, like, you always have to be aware that whenever you're talking about Greek pantheon, little dicks.
Yeah, the thing is, Greeks did not define heroism the way we do nowadays.
It's not even the heroism or lack thereof aspect. It's more that just like, even they are just so petty.
Yes.
They're more petty than everyone else. Like,
it does vary from telling to telling and adaptation to adaptation. In fairness, but yeah.
like, if you go by the mythology, and like, you have to assume that like most of the adaptations have an implicit of, okay, the myth did happen, are things that happen. So, going by that method, it's infuriating because then, arguably, the most innocent is probably
Perseus.
No. No. I'm talking about the gods.
Oh god,
Most
that's
innocent
Hestia.
are arguably Artemis and Hestia.
Artemis has done some dick moves, let's be fair.
And then I was gonna say, the problem is Artemis has done some incredible dick moves, and the reason Hestia is not a dick is mostly because she just doesn't show up often. Right? She's very important, but she doesn't show up. But yeah, like everyone likes to say that Athena's pretty cool, but like
Athena's done some pretty fucking dickish things.
Arachne. The entire story of Arachne is literally framed as, oh, you should be humble. But if you actually read the story, it's not about humility. The story of Arachne is if you are better at something than your superiors, they will give you a fate worse than death.
It really depends on the telling, because there's like so many different versions of that story.
Can you think of a way that
are
not horribly unflattering?
Like, some versions are Arachne legitimately outperforms Athena, and Athena gets mad and turns her into a spider. Other versions are Athena beats Arachne, and Arachne commits suicide out of despair and gets resurrected as a spider by Athena. And still other versions are Athena narrowly loses to Arachne and tears up Arachne's tapestry in a rage, and Arachne commits suicide out of despair.
I am victorious.
2 out of 3 are not great, and even the third one, even the second one, which is arguably the most flattering to Athena, even in that one, he did not ask to be resurrected as a spider, and usually because Arachne is presented as monstrously, it's not
reincarnated as a spider, but yes.
Yeah, it's
either way.
Functionally
Potato, potato.
It's not. Yeah, but it's like even then Arachne was like, I didn't want this. Why could you not just let me stay dead? And also is presented as a monster in the vast majority of tellings, so it's just like the Arachne spider monster. So it's just like...
Yeah, I think Arachne is in Hades too. So I will be interested to see the Hades-verse take on it. On her story and her character.
Like, one thing that really got me was, how... In Hades 1, I don't know if you've seen this piece of dialogue, Mel, but Dionysus, aka David Dowie, says at one point he's dislikes Theseus because of what he did to the princess, i.e. left her to take the blame for seducing her. Which, okay, yes, that's fair. But if you look at the mythology, Dionysus isn't exactly great when it comes to the romantic side of things as well. Even beyond the standard, consent was not a thing the gods considered at any point. Even besides
yes. The classic, if I'm a god, it's okay, it doesn't matter how consensual it is. That whole,
Yes.
that old chestnut.
But yeah, one of Dionysus's core myths, and this is something there's a reason that I do not like Percy Jackson. For or Riordan in general, I have a lot of problems. And one of them is that it brings up it got very close to making a salient point, and like presenting the gods as not as positively as it did. Where one of the core myths of Dionysus was in his relationship with his wife, and there was like a whole trial and tribulation to elevate his mortal lover to immortality. And then, someone in the Percy Jackson series, someone brought up the obvious point. I mean, you say that you love her a lot, but like also have a bunch of kids. And no, the fact that Riordan made that comment and then nothing came of it from that point on. They sort of they made the comment and then just moved on as if anyway. So that was just a bit irksome to me. It's like, so you're aware that it's icky, but you're not going to comment on it any further.
Just what I need.
It's just like...
The thing is, most of the gods are, like, terrible about being remotely, you know, faithful in any relationship.
Vigilant Cerberus decide.
And, like, I don't necessarily think it's the best idea to just point it out and then just ignore it afterwards.
Yeah, that's what irked me. It would have been fine if you hadn't pointed it out, but they made a point, like, Riordan had Dionysus in his work go on a deal about how much he loves his wife and the trials and tribulations he went through to be with her, while also having a quite populated section of the camp with his pawn running around.
In fairness, like, Dionysus does not have a lot of bastard kids in the Percy Jackson series.
He only does have a pair of twins.
Yeah. Which, you know, is one
also,
singular instance of infidelity, which is, you know, not nearly
the
as
implication
bad
is that there were a lot more in the past. Like, he gets upset when they bring that up. That's what gets me. He gets upset and no one calls him on it.
Could be at least somewhat ashamed of it, but I don't know.
Yeah, so it's just like, that's why Riordan does a lot of stuff like that, where he gets close to, like, doing something brave and then immediately goes back to it.
I do feel like Riordan is better about having, like, the big authority figures be flawed messes of people than, you know, a lot of other authors do.
To a certain extent, but always seems to find a way to paint the gods in a more positive light.
I would argue that he portrays the gods as ultimately, like, I wouldn't say necessary evil, but like the lesser evil compared to a lot of the other.
Yes, lesser evil is a good way of putting it. Yes. The problem is that that's never really. It's the whole. We acknowledge that the system is bad, but we won't really do anything. Right?
I don't think he really can do without, you know, destroying the setting he's working on.
No, he could. There is a way. But it would require a sort of, a lot of, aptitude and magic.
Yeah, I don't think Riordan's comfortable with that, especially given the age demographic that he is, you know.
All I'm saying is that there is a way that it could happen. He's not going to do it, but there is a way it could be done.
Perhaps.
But yeah, it's similar to how he does just enough research in some of this stuff to have like a lot of the stuff with Magnus Chase series regarding that one daughter of Loki.
Yeah.
Again, I will never get over the fact that anyway, I'll talk about that after. But yeah, it's just I'm always leery of anything involving anytime you have a even Hades is a perfect example. Hades is probably the most pleasant god in the actual mythological canon, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, in the game Hades, not the person, not the character Hades, and in Dresden, they always are like, yes, Persephone was also into it, but they had to sort of wiggle around.
Demeter,
even
yeah.
Hades never really addresses the idea that, or rather, does it? Oh, doesn't Hades do a thing where it's the parentage of goddesses and gods, Olympus?
I don't
As if
know.
it doesn't.
No. I don't know.
If it does, I haven't reached that point.
Yeah, I think I think they just never address it. So they never really. So yeah, they never address. Logically speaking. In the game Hades. So,
I mean,
you know, that's kind of weird.
Here's the thing, Fuzzy. Mythology is made up.
Say hi to Hypnos for me.
Also,
My brother
like,
in Christ, it's all made up. We still yap about it anyway. That's what we are here for. Yapping about made-up things is literally what we do on this show.
But you're treating it as if by, you know, changing the perceptions of, you know, these various mythological characters, that they are going against what actually happened. And that by portraying them as maybe a little bit nicer than, you know, some of the mythology portrays them as, that it's causing some sort of harm.
Okay. I think I'm not articulating this well enough, so I'll try and articulate it better. I totally get that, and I agree that that would be silly. I'm not going at it from that angle. The angle that I'm trying to approach it from is that I dislike it when the source material in question also draws from the myths in which they're dicks, but does not sufficiently, like, address the dick. Like, the thing I said with President, or with Dionysus was one example, where Fjordan acknowledges the dickishness and then just moves on.
Please, everybody, hold your
like, without actually commenting on it. Like, he acknowledges it happens, but doesn't actually say anything about it.
I think one thing to consider on that front is that, like, acknowledging that it happens is what is all that is really required of the
no.
scene or the story.
No. Let me. Okay.
Well, look at you, codex brimming with our history.
I am. Listen, we all know I'm bad at work, so I'm trying to articulate.
Mortals must have had their stories, though.
So, okay, you're saying that the problem is that I am, like, I'm mad about sympathetic portrayals, even when mythology has been changed. My problem is when the portrayal is sympathetic, but the mythology where they are dicks has not been changed. So the sympathetic reading feels unearned or inappropriate. Does that make a bit more sense? And they don't change the mythology, like when they, like, when in their new canon, the myths that paint them as dicks still happen, but they also try and portray them as better people than the myths. Right?
I mean,
my problem is when they try and have their cake and eat it too.
I do think sometimes it can be explained by them changing in response to the cultures that are around, which is, you know, a lot of the case with the whole God needs prayer badly type settings, where they have to change accordingly in response to, you know, changing times and changing standards. But I don't know how explicit that is in the Reardon verse, because I know there is the whole thing of gods needing worship and stuff. I don't know how much that correlates to, yeah.
It actually kind of isn't a thing in the Reardon verse. It's that the gods adapt and change the way that they're worshipped, but they don't necessarily. It's never. Oh no, it is. Never mind.
Yeah, they change a lot depending on the
I forgot
upon where
about
they
Pan
are.
dying because the wilds are dead.
Such as they are remain quite
Yes.
similar to
So it is a case of them changing in accordance with
well, it does beat
real
standing alone
world
quite a
standards
little bit.
changing and with culture around the world changing.
Likewise, Nix. Fine job, Thanatos.
And, you know, like, a lot of the stuff that they did back in, you know, ancient Greece was the expected standard back then, but is no longer the expected standard in, you know, the modern day, especially in America.
All I'm saying is I would read a Percy Jackson series in which they go full Kratos.
Because if there's anything that
I don't think that's what Reardon is ever going to do, because
No, he's
that's
never
not...
going to do it, but a man can dream.
Me. I have everything. And so do you.
You know, I would not mind a God of War style thing with the quality of writing that Reardon has.
Marriage and your parental responsibilities.
That would be God of War.
Like, the Data Boy, yes.
No, I mean like.
Yes.
No.
Yes, Fuzzy,
not,
we know
I
you
think
don't think very highly of Riordan's writing.
that was the point I was going to.
I mean, I fully disagree with you, and, yeah, I disagree with you on that front quite a bit.
My friend.
Then we have
No,
to like get into like, can we develop a rubric? And how we classify a given author's writing? Like,
Well,
score them
something to keep in
different
mind with
categories?
Reardon's writing is that if,
Yes.
like, the age demographic he writes to is something to keep in mind.
Yes, he does write for 12.
He writes with the younger audience in mind, and, like, so he's not going to be, like, on the same level of, like, prose depth as, say, I don't know, Martin or Butcher. Or
Okay.
even, like, Tamsin Muir, for example. I know you don't
Okay.
read her stuff because reasons, but...
What are you implying?
I don't remember what reasons you gave, so I'm just saying because reasons.
Do you want to know the reason? It's mainly because it seems like it
my bow.
would take a lot of brain power commitment. I just don't have that right now.
Suppose so, that's fair.
I've been reading more. Well, no, it would be a lie to say I read mindless stuff. There's some really good Korean novels out there, y'all.
How much of those are, like... What's the proportion of good Korean web novels to bad Korean web novels?
It's hard to quantify because I don't have access to the full data like I would with
I mean, if you're ever bored, that's a project you can work on.
Keepsake grows stronger.
It's like Sturgeon's law is universal. That's not a question. Right? Sturgeon's law is just...
It's a question of not proportionality, but, like, gradients.
That is true, yes.
Because I wouldn't say that 90% of everything is pure garbage. I would say it's much more accurate to say, like, 90% of everything is some degree of garbage. And,
Like,
it's much more apparent in some cases than others.
yeah, so... Sorry, I'll be right back. You guys
Okay.
talk.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to finish this run, but let's just see how far I can get.
Ah, the good old rail of adamants.
I'm using the bow.
Oh, you're using the bow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw it at a funky angle.
It's no use.
Like I said, I do not like the gun. I think the gun sucks. I cannot get used to it.
Oh, dude, I get it.
But on the other hand, I have a lot more fun with.
The bow does seem like a fun time in general. But what are your thoughts on this whole debaticle?
Like I said, I mean, I don't really care. It's not meant to be an accurate depiction of the mythology, so I don't really care, you know, whether the authors in question, you know, cherry pick from the mythology.
I would agree with you, especially since mythology is a massive multi-source thing that, like, there's very little consistent agreement on a lot of factors in mythology. So,
because it's all made up.
Choosing...
It is literally all made up. It is based on, you know, which bullshit you actually, you know, listen to. There's no consistent story for every single one of them and consistent take on every single one of them because it doesn't exist. Because it's all about, you know, okay, this person wanted to teach this lesson. This person wanted to teach this lesson.
Yeah.
And some people were just really horny.
I mean, that's everything, but yes. But yeah, like Mill was saying, like, the thing with mythology is, like, it's so multi-sourced or, like, unreliably sourced that, like, there's nothing really wrong with authors picking and choosing what elements they take from a given thing, you know?
Okay, yeah, I'm.
Like, I can look, Fuzzy, I can understand the consistency thing, but at the same time, I really don't care. Like, it's really a case of, okay, well, you know, let me try and think about the best way to word this. All right, let's use another example. Oda. Because Wano, as I can attest to, given I wrote part of a fucking dissertation on it, Wano had quite a lot of folkloric and mythological aspects to it. Mostly folkloric, but it's in the same vein. Some of those Oda depicted, you know, accurately to the folklore. Others he didn't. And some of them
something about artistic license.
Yeah, and sometimes it didn't make sense for him to do that. I'll give an example. I'm going to pause because I actually have to think about this, and I actually have to get my dissertation up to remember exactly what I'm about to say. Come on, Kindle, load. Yes, I do have my dissertation on Kindle. Fuck you.
Nah, you're good, dude.
Dissertation. That's the end of it. So let's go to... Where is it? There. Okay, so the example I'm going to use is Hiyori. Because when we're first introduced to her, she's using the name Komurasaki. Now, Komurasaki is a character in a folklore tale. That of Komurasaki and Gonpachi, I believe I think that's the name of the tale. Where Gonpachi tried to, you know, found Komurasaki, having already encountered Komurasaki, found her in, you know, the quarter of the town which is set aside for tea houses and other haunts of wild young men.
Red light.
And Gonpachi turned to, you know, criminal activity to buy Kumarasaki's freedom and was executed for his crimes. We get a part of that with Kumurasaki, aka Hiyori, and the three dudes, in particular Bingo, who, you know, sold everything he owned, including his family, to buy Kumurasaki's freedom. Oda then twists the folktale by having Kumurasaki, again, aka Hiyori, not actually, you know, be the same good person in that instance, and has lied to these men and takes their money. Yet Hiyori is a good person. We know that. Yet she does this bad thing.
Well, in fairness, the bad thing is done to the bad men because they are, you know, vile con artists.
Still a pretty shitty thing to do. Because,
you
know...
no, it's absolutely a shitty thing to do. But, like, it's...
That is a more nuanced issue than I think you are giving it credit for, because...
I think the issue you're bringing up is more nuanced, and you're, you know...
Okay, I will
You're putting
say
a
something.
bad spin on it.
You are in one way correctly interpreting my issue. In the sense that you are correct in that my primary issue is a matter of consistency. And let me pose a question. This lack of internal consistency. Do your opinions change if the characters are not, if I'm not talking about them being folklore characters, talking about them being inconsistent characterization of other characters? The reason I believe that the Kumurasaki example is a bit more nuanced than that is that while, yes, Dory did a bad thing, he was doing it to bad people, but also the nuance comes from the fact that her doing bad things to bad people hurt some innocent people. That's the thing I take it. They did sell their family, which is not, like, casual nature of that. Like, I love Oda, but, like, selling innocent people into slavery for a gag is not something I'm comfortable with on a number of levels.
I wouldn't say it's a gag that happens, but yeah, it's like...
It is played for comedy. So yes, I do think that's... But like, let's say I was... let's reframe this. Let's say you have a character who in their backstory did awful things, and yet the current story is portraying them as a decent person without acknowledging the bad things that they did or trying to address them. An example of that not being done is Dalinar from Stormlight Arc. His entire character arc is trying to come to terms with the awful things. So he does get something of a pass for that, in that. Because at least he is aware of it and is actively repenting. The problem I have, like, it would be as if Dalinar did all these bad things, and didn't think he did anything wrong, but was still portrayed in the same way he is. The strong. That is the thing I take issue with, and that is how I interpret the way that deities are often handled. Where internally, they have backstories where they did bad things, but they kind of just gloss over it anyway. That's the level of, like, I'm lamenting the lack of. That make my argument a little more
cogent, yes.
A bit more cogent.
I mean, again, I've understood the argument basically the entire time.
No, I
don't agree with that.
I know that you understood and you just don't care either way. But I'm just saying that I am more of a stickler, and I'm trying to make it clear to anyone who doesn't necessarily understand. Because I know I'm not being very eloquent.
You're worse at articulating yourself, Fuzzy. We do get what you're saying.
I didn't catch what you said because you roboted.
Oh, sorry. You're not particularly bad at articulating yourself, Fuzzy. We do get what you're saying. It's just we were trying to rebut it with our own examples.
My keepsakes.
No, that's fair. I just don't. Look, I'm gonna play the autism card here. I can't tell what is not understanding and what is an attempt to rebut.
No, I get it. I get it.
It's like,
look, I have like the worst problems with sarcasm sometimes. Like, I'm either terrible at affecting it, or I'm terrible at like recognizing it in others.
yeah, turns out, neurodiversity has effects on communication. Who knew?
In other news, water is wet.
Is water wet?
I know
or does
water
it make
isn't
things
actually
wet?
wet. Water actually makes things wet. Yes, I know.
There's like a lot of dirty jokes you could make there.
Good
I'm
enough
not
to
going
eat.
to, but just know that the thought crossed my mind. But I
I
also
appreciate
don't.
you not cracking those jokes.
It's look. I'm gonna full disclosure. The reason I didn't crack those jokes is just because I couldn't think of one in time.
Nonetheless, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because, Mill, it's not like you're not an active reader. But it is kind of interesting to me that the characterization hiccups like this there's things you don't care about. You are like an active reader and just generally engage with the material very critically. Like,
I won't say very critically.
More critically than the majority of the population.
All of us here are capable of using media literacy.
Juicy.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Is that you engage enough to like you have a good grasp of media literacy, which is why I'm I thought we were all going to be super neurotic about characterization. Didn't realize that was just me.
You've also got to understand, Fuzzy. I read a lot of fan fiction. If I was to get hung up on a certain characterization for a certain character, then
it is true,
I
isn't it?
would not be able to read 90% of the stuff that I read.
I mean, that's part of why I can't get into fanfiction myself. Like,
that is
I do
part of
kind
my
of get
problem
hung up on it sometimes.
now as well. Yeah. Just to a certain extent, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me.
Oh, God.
Hit me if you can, witches.
To be fair, I've not got a bad loadout for this place, but I still hate it.
I'm not a fan of how Bernie hot it is, either.
And to be fair, I've got a good weapon for it, because the issue with this place is that sometimes they'll just retreat into the lava, and if you've got a melee weapon, there's fuck all you can do about that.
Yeah. Fortunately, most of the weapons have a ranged option at worst.
That takes care of them.
Love tends to blossom in the strangest places at the strangest times. You know that, don't you, dearest?
But yeah, so that Komonosaki example is good though, because it actually gets into something we did talk about earlier on the stream. Is the collateral damage issue. Like, that is an example where I think
here's the
collateral
thing.
damage was not worth it.
Yeah, I was using that as an example against your point, Fuzzy. I actually like it, because it actually is an example of manipulating folklore.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's a bit of inconsistency of, okay, well then, why would Komurasaki do something like that? And yes, you know, the people involved were bad people, but yeah, there's an element of collateral
innocent people
damage.
got caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and
That's what
there is a limit to how much she could have done to prevent that.
Something's amiss.
Largely because, like, her position is very delicate, and if she went too far out of her way...
The handling of Hiyori is one of the parts of
That's not my style.
that arc that is the most uncomfortable for me on a number of levels.
I do wish Oda, you know, did
Addressed
more
it at
with...
all?
Well, I just wish Oda actually, you know, did more with Hiyori as a character.
Yeah, I just like the fact that he kind of just glossed over possible being sold into sexual slavery, essentially. Just the fact it's just one of those things where it would have been a wild tone shift to actually
Address
get into it
yeah.
much, but at the same time, it's like the earlier examples.
You held your own.
It's kind of gross to just bring it up, acknowledge that it happened, but not address it in any way other than the fact that it happened. That's just kind of like...
The way Oda brings it up kind of leaves a lot of ambiguity around, like, the details of the situation.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not ideal.
What do you know? Oda isn't perfect. He's a lot better than, you know, probably the vast majority of writers out there, but he is...
99% of authors who have ever written.
Yeah, he is not perfect. He will do things badly and do things wrong.
I will still say, the Okama are not an example of him. Some people will try and bring up. His portrayal is not in any way negative, at least from where I'm standing. To me, personally, it feels like a very sympathetic book.
For the most part, portrayed pretty sympathetically.
I think once I do this boss, we should probably call it a day.
Probably a good idea.
Alright, I will save my discussion involving terminal patients for the next...
Oh boy.
But yeah, Oda does have places where he's handled it as well as he should have. If anything, that's encouraging because it means he's human. You can one day consume him.
I mean, it's possible that his masters didn't install that update quite as quickly as they should have.
I don't like framing it as master. Programmers?
Programmers works.
It's got a more neutral connotation. Unless he's into that. Don't know what Oda gets up to. Do we? We talk about that?
I mean, we know Oda's into big boobs.
Yes, Oda is famously a boob man.
Nice.
But that's not really telling us anything. In fact, that's possibly one of the single most vanilla things we know about Oda.
And there's also you can look at the fact that Nami is quite, how to put this nicely,
Swedish?
dominant, let's say.
Mm.
And,
Yeah, there are some light femdom things here and there.
Robin has her elements of,
No, Robin is absolutely, like...
There's some dominatrix stuff going on there, yeah.
So, yeah, it's possible.
Robin 100% is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general. But, like, especially in that aspect.
But yes, we should call it here. So thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. In terms of future stuff, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, as always, we might be adding more days to that later down the line. We will see. Otherwise, again, thank you for watching. Please do give us a follow here on Twitch and all that YouTube stuff.
Like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and please press that bell icon.
And otherwise, hopefully we'll see you on Tuesday. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Later.